In this video tip of the day, I'm going to cover NSAIDs like Advil. Common question that I get on social media is, do I need to avoid using ibuprofen, aspirin, naproxen sodium like Aleve, all examples of NSAIDs, and that's just standing for capital NSAID. And that's just non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. That's what this class of drugs is considered. These are over-the-counter examples, but the question about using these types of painkillers and anti-inflammatory drugs is, will it prevent muscle growth? And for those of you who aren't familiar with this, then I will update you on why there is concern. And it has to do with some old research, and mainly it was actually done in rats, in animal models. But this is going back, over 10 years, I'd say. And what the research found was that when these animals were exposed to NSAIDs like ibuprofen, there were processes that normally take place during muscle growth involving protein synthesis that the ibuprofen or the NSAID sort of inhibited. So the theory was that because this is an important pathway in protein synthesis, in muscle protein synthesis, which leads to muscle growth, NSAIDs could in fact inhibit muscle growth. It was really just a theory, first of all. But anyway, so the research on NSAIDs in protein synthesis painted a very negative picture on NSAID use. So everybody was avoiding things like ibuprofen and other NSAIDs like Motrin and Aleve because they figured it was going to stop muscle protein synthesis and inhibit muscle growth. However, now there's a lot of experts out there telling you, oh, you should never ever have Advil, or you should never have Aleve, when in fact a study that was done, this was done at Ball State, found that subjects who were following strength training program, these were older subjects, I believe somewhere over 40s or 50s and in their 60s. They were followed a program, several weeks, resistance training program. One group received NSAID to take, and the other group had none. They wanted to measure the results following the program, things like strength gains and muscle growth. Well, guess what? Guess who gained more muscle size and strength? You're probably thinking, well, since NSAIDs inhibit muscle protein synthesis, I bet it was the people who were taking the placebo that weren't getting the actual NSAIDs. Well, you'd be wrong. It was actually the group taking the NSAIDs. They gained significantly more muscle mass and more strength than the subjects not taking the placebo that weren't getting any NSAIDs. So what does that tell you? Well, in humans, it might actually enhance muscle growth. Now, that doesn't mean you should supplement with Advil, but when you have a headache, take some Advil. When you have lower back soreness because it's just sore from training or you pulled a muscle, go for it. Reach for Aleve. I'm telling you guys, it's not going to inhibit muscle growth. It's not. You're not going to have any. I mean, look, these are all theories that we don't know. Like I always tell you, we don't know much about muscle growth. We really don't. We've got some theories. But this is the problem when what I call pseudoscientists are out there giving out advice like this, because they're the ones telling you, you go online right now and, you are online if you're watching this video, but go search for NSAIDs and muscle growth. You'll see all kinds of articles from experts telling you don't take any NSAIDs if you're serious about muscle size because they inhibit protein synthesis. Case closed. Wrong. Case is not closed. Case is back open again because the human data doesn't match up with the animal data. But guess what? None of these experts are smart enough to follow the science and keep up with it. So they're still using the old data saying, hey, don't take NSAIDs. Okay? It's idiotic. When you need them, take them. Take them. And don't, all these other experts will tell you, oh, instead of taking Advil, you should take white willow extract instead of aspirin. Well, guess what? It's the same compound that's in aspirin is in white willow extract. It doesn't matter that it's a natural, it's the same compound. It's going to do the same thing. It's going to block the same pathways. These are COX enzymes, COX, as they're called, 1 and 2, that it blocks. So our NSAID groups now include, so let's go back to the natural. The natural, it's going to do the same thing. But again, the same thing might be nothing. There's no inhibition on muscle growth as far as what the real world data looks like at this point. And even some data from the research of at least in humans showing that there's no issue. In fact, it might actually enhance muscle growth. But again, I'm not telling you to supplement with it, because it could be simply that they were older individuals, maybe taking it allowed them to have less pain and allowed them to train harder, which allowed them to get better results. But again, they were able to get better results, so there was no inhibition of muscle growth as the theory goes. So the theory sort of, is sort of debunked, if you will, disproved at this point at least. But I see no issue taking them. Now, real quickly, I know these videos, I promised I would do this one really quick, and it just goes on and on. But let's do a rundown on what are NSAIDs and what are not. Now, NSAIDs include aspirin, plain aspirin like Bayer aspirin, ibuprofen like Advil, naproxen sodium like Aleve, Motrin is another example. Well, what about Tylenol? Tylenol is acetaminophen, different chemical. It does inhibit, like I said, those COX enzymes. However, it appears to not really provide anti-inflammatory, at least a strong anti-inflammatory benefit. Definitely can help with pain relief, but it's not considered an NSAID because it has very weak anti-inflammatory properties. So great for things like headaches. But if you have something like that, inflammation, joint pain, pulled muscle, reach for your ibuprofen, or I prefer, for myself, you got to find what works for you. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to take them. Stay Gym Army strong.